This is all that was.
Who's going to keep that book?
That stays here in the town hall.
Okay.
And these are now ours, these folders that were just given to us by Paul, which has some...
No, this is a copy of when, you know, like Peter wanted to take the book and go through the book. I'm fine with that too.
Okay.
As an engineer.
So it could be signed out to Peter if
I'd
you'd
like to sign
take
out
it.
maybe this weekend.
Okay.
This week's swamped again.
Yeah, I hear your pain, feel your pain.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, definitely. And
Are we on, or is he
from
ready to go on?
invoices to emails.
Ready to go? We're on? Okay. Well, all right. We are in session, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the Public Safety Building Committee, and we're going to jump right into our task tonight because we've got a lot of reports to hear and a lot of information to share because we've had some diligent work going on. So I've condensed the site, but I'm going to condensed our agenda, but I'm going to flip around a little bit and let Paul share with us some of his homework that he's collected for us and walk. Me too. And Art Mary said she wouldn't be here till about 5:20. I don't know if you're competent enough to take minutes along the way, you know, or... That was a joke, Art.
Probably not.
I know I'm not, but I'll try to help anyway. All right, Paul, the floor is yours. Thank you.
In these packets, here we have, it's actually more than 5 scenarios. The official scenarios are A through E. And they were put together by SDA Engineering and Keith McVeigh, who's the contractor.
And just to clarify, we're talking about the scenarios on the existing police department site.
Police department
yes,
site.
thank you.
And this first one that you see, looks like this with the X's on it. That one was done by Mr. Piper. And Peter, this one was done before any test boarding. And I think you might remember it, Tim, this is one of the very first ones.
Correct.
Estimate of what the yardage might be on ledge that needs to be removed off of that. Matter of fact, we were still considering that as putting the fire station right where the PD is.
Correct.
So when you start going through the packet, the first one is the one that Butch had at your last meeting. Conceptual site cost on the left is for the proposed police station and the proposed fire station.
Are they additive or are they
Separate.
They're separate. Yep.
That was so,
Then it
that was this-
right, then it coincides with the drawing right behind it, Peter.
So if what you're asking, in order to do both, you'd have to add these together.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So the total on that would be 1.8.
Right. Now that's for...
Right, you gotta realize, we started high and then we started bringing buildings, and that's why you have different scenarios here.
And this is where the approximate, you know, if you see just the blue highlight at the bottom would be your approximate actual removal of materials
Right.
and earthwork, and the rest were all the other, as you know much better than I, the more completed site work costs.
now, Paul, this is concept B. What does that mean? It says conceptual site cost estimate, concept B, and the next one is concept C. What,
Well, there's A through E.
It is A through E.
There's actually, there's a number of different ideas or concepts in terms of placement of buildings, how many buildings, combined, separate,
I don't think
you
this
know.
is something that you can take in all in tonight's meeting.
No, this is just Paul's just going to give us an overview so that then when we go
But how
back.
it works, I think you need to take the folder home with you, and then you can look at the quantitative sheet on what the site work was going to take, and with each sheet, there's a corresponding drawing that goes with each scenario.
Quick question.
A through E.
If I take the notebook home this weekend?
Yep, you can take it home tonight. That would
all right.
actually be easier.
Yeah, probably for you.
Am I just going to get lost in the amount of material that's in there? Or is this a pretty good summary? I'm just wondering.
No, I think as an engineer,
I see, concept A.
I would be more comfortable if you actually did take it home, Peter, as an engineer. There are other things in here that might raise a question.
Good, okay.
Oh, I
This is a
see.
synopsis, this is a synopsis that I gave to a ad hoc committee that was made up of people that weren't engineers, and it simplified as I could, but this is more technical, and there might be other things that you might be interested in. In the minutes that we took of the last meetings and how we requested some of these things.
Good, okay.
So they had a question, why did we do this? That would be in this.
Maybe a little more overarching question, Paul. Do you think, are these numbers still valid and accurate? Or do they need to be updated by the same people who generated them the first time?
No, I don't think, because the reason why we went with a separate engineering firm was so that we would have them in our possession so that we could pass them on to...
So there's been no significant enough variations in the last year on what it costs to do this kind of work that we would anticipate
Or even
any
dollar
substantive
amounts might
change?
have changed.
Dollar, yeah, not the
Dollar
content so
amounts,
much.
definitely. How much ledge is... Dick would be able to answer that better than I.
Well, for part of it, yeah.
Right.
Not for all, but, yeah, part of it.
I mean,
The
prices...
numbers, I don't think the numbers have changed. I don't know how they arrived at the number.
The quantitative amount's not good. Now, some engineer might have made a mistake in his or her math to get to that, but the borings are what the borings are. We haven't had any earth shifting up there at the site.
Right, no, I was just trying to anticipate, is there anything we need to ask any of the companies who did this work to just give us any feedback on these numbers are still solid, the industry hasn't changed, the cost
Thank you.
the cost of doing excavation is not substantively different than it was a year ago, so that we can move forward with these cost estimates as being reasonable expectations.
Which is why I still feel more comfortable with an engineer and a contractor like
But we need to go through that. I think.
Yeah, right.
to
need
take
to
it
go through
home
that.
and go through it.
So Peter's taking this gospel book with all of this stuff in it, and
You can have it Monday.
you can have it Monday. So anything, insights you guys can offer as you look at that, that'd be great.
What this is, Dick, is everything that we as a committee last year
In preparation for the
did from
various
day
scenarios.
one to the March meeting, from emails to the minutes of the meetings, to anything that SDA gave us, Keith McVeigh gave us.
So I think for the best use of our time, Paul's done a nice job giving us some synopsis of materials for us to digest. We're not going to be able to do that tonight, but that was one of his homework assignments, which he completed admirably. Peter is taking the gospel according to this process for further review by his expert eyes.
Sure.
And Dick will follow up on that a little bit too.
I have a
Question?
question for you. I think we talked about getting Jeff Downing, CCI, involved in some costing out, scoping the different options. Any problem having him share with anything that's in that notebook with him on Monday?
No, but I'd also like to, I sent out a request to the board, to the committee, that Keith McVeigh, who was on board with us last year, also made the same request and offered up the same services. I think he would like to be granted the same.
Well, that's,
He's interested in coming before the committee, too.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I think if we have like, I don't know, what's the saying, what's the joke? One Indian, one chief or whatever.
too many Indians.
Yes,
too many
working on
cooks.
it. Again, just to get some comments on if, is it Keith?
Keith McVeigh.
Keith McVeigh. Comments on some of the costs, let's say up at the existing police station, and potentially another contractor looking at costs on other sites. You may not be comparing apples to apples.
Well, then I'd also
You
have to
should
say,
be
since
able
this
to.
is his material,
Yep.
if you have any questions on it, you might want to Austin to the person that created the
Very
material.
definitely, yes, yes.
And
So
I'll
are you
just
putting the cart
naively-
before the horse? That's all I'm saying. If you have questions on this material, then maybe the person that generated the material should answer the question.
And this material that you passed out was from McVeigh?
Keith McVeigh and SDA Engineering.
Those are the two combined.
Well, and my preference would be...
There is a sub in there that they had picked up when we requested to have borings made called Horizon Engineering, but they were only on board just for the sake of getting a third party to come in to do the borings.
We talked earlier in this process that we would have any pro bono or volunteer assistance vetted through your office so that there isn't any sense that anyone on our group is looking to anyone else in particular with any other bias.
Exactly, and all I did was forward his email. As soon as I got, if you looked on the Times on his email, I think within minutes, as soon as I got it from him, I forwarded it to every member of the committee.
Right. Well, what I'm saying, Paul, not to put any undue pressure on you, but I would prefer that because there's the implication of a quasi-relationship with the town, anytime we ask somebody to do something, I would want to make sure that it's endorsed and approved by our town officials, so...
And so would I.
Yeah, so if what I'm hearing you say, I guess, is that you would prefer that we do as our first blush, we work with the people who created this document. And CCI, correct me if I'm wrong, that, and maybe it's true for this company as well, but they are builders. Is that accurate?
Yeah, they are construction managers and general contractors.
Okay. And a lot of this work is different how? Or is it, or maybe you'll be able to make that assessment after you've looked at what's in here a little more.
Yeah, let me take a look at it. It'd be nice to have a consistent approach to all the costs for scope only at this point, not for costing out for bidding, obviously, for all the different options.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
I just like to have it consistent, whatever, whether it's this company or CCI. Personally, I have a preference for CCI. I've worked with them before, but
And also, if I could do this, because my authority only comes up to a certain glass ceiling.
I'm sorry.
If I could defer it to a selectman that's sitting here for that
Elected
purpose.
official.
Right.
This is the proverbial, let's pass the buck as far as we can.
I didn't say-
I don't blame you. I
didn't say it that way.
I know, but I'm saying it, so I'll admit that I'm saying it, that
I
I
almost
don't
said
want
it
to
that
have
way.
to, I don't want to have to own that decision personally as a committee, just because it potentially has the ability to come back and say, why did you leave me out? So right now, and Peter, I guess I'd ask as you look at this, I think that for us as a committee, it's going to be easier for us to defend using the creator of the information than to engage another third party, unless we as a group feel, all right, we have that, now we'd like a second opinion. And it may very well be that if they're willing to do that, that we can have a sort of a validation process, but still give the due back to the creator of the information. I'm not opposed to having another set of eyes come
No,
up
and
and
neither,
say,
and I
hey,
don't want, I don't
okay.
want to be perceived as saying that wrong. I mean, the reason why I brought the book forward was for transparency purposes.
Absolutely.
I'd like to have somebody that's never seen any of this before
Yep.
in the engineering field take a look at it. A new committee member that's an engineer take a look at this book and maybe raise questions that we non-engineers didn't come up with last year.
I'm an architect, not an engineer, just to clarify the record. But from a cost standpoint, from the site costs and site methodologies, Dick, you're the guy I think you're also conversant with this too. But I'd like to have your opinion on that also.
Yep. So I think at this point, let's just,
And I will
once you
say,
guys take
there's nothing in this book that didn't go through any of our hands last year.
Right.
As committee members.
but I know that many things went through my hands that
That
I
we
didn't
don't want-
understand
right.
fully, from my perspective.
And we
So
had
I
people on
appreciate
board at that time
experts
that would,
looking at it. Okay, so then Dick and Peter will evaluate these materials, take a look at any questions we may still have, and see if that helps us as we move forward. And then, you're absolutely right, Peter, we need to move quickly to start getting someone to help us develop some real cost estimates.
Because I had Jeff Downing coming in this coming Monday at 4 o'clock to start going through. the different options.
And I think for now, we just should say, that's fine, and let's give Keith the opportunity to do the same thing, and then we've got
Right, and I
two
can,
different
and I
sets
can
of
tell you
eyes.
this on behalf of the board, and which would validate the fact that the board has been fine with bringing in a dozen engineers.
How many ever want to join in the
As long as
party?
that-
Yep.
That's pro bono at that,
Yep.
right.
Okay.
There's no expense, when,
Certainly respect the work that was done here, but I also respect the for a fact that CCI does tons of work in this area and has very realistic assessments of what's going on. And
I'm trying also maybe to be fair to myself or,
Yeah.
or selfish.
Yeah.
Going through a CCI, I sort of envision the sort of work required is, this sort of stuff doesn't tell a story to a contractor. If it's just a building pad and a building structure, sure, they can come up with some square foot costs, but it probably means walking around each of the sites with them. Now, if I'm doing that once, okay, twice, 3 times, or do you all get all the contractors together and start going through each of the sites? That's what I'm sort of thinking.
well, let me also explain.
Or maybe different members do that.
Well, let me explain a little bit about Keith McVeigh too versus SDA. Keith McVeigh is a contractor that builds police stations, like he built the police station in Littleton that we're emulating to a certain extent with our additional needs. So he's actually a contractor of police stations and fire stations. So it's not just in engineering, he's works in conjunction with SDA on these projects.
So he's a general contractor familiar with this building type.
Right.
Obviously.
Dick, you have a
Okay.
comment?
Well, no matter how we do it, I don't think we should walk through 1, 2, or 3 different times. I think we should have
pick one
Once.
time and
one
invite
time.
whoever.
Everybody gets the same information, everybody's on the same footing, if that's the way we're going to do it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's not fair to you to start having
No, no,
multiple
I mean, I
parties.
can't
And they're
have
going to
it.
create their proposals based on the information, right?
Yep.
And then we have to sort that all out.
Well, in this case,
That's-
they're not even proposing anything.
Yeah.
They're giving us, go ahead.
Let's go back a bit. We're going to be trying to come up with an order of magnitude of building costs and site costs. So as a committee, we can recommend, are we going to recommend all the sites and to come up with a cost, or maybe have it boiled down to 1, 2, or maybe 3 sites?
I think we should pick a site. I think
Well, my hope
this
is
committee
that,
needs to land on a site, and I thought at our very first meeting, when Ray Gosney sat where Arthur is, and we started talking, and the conversation turned to, the existing PD site, we missed the boat by this much. And I thought we were gonna more or less concentrate on that site, try to fine tune it, and get us to a point, and work with the program, work with the building, and try and make that work. But we've gone back, we've opened it back up now, we're going all the way around. But I think we need to come up with a site.
Well, I
Let
think,
everybody look at it.
I don't disagree with you, but I think we have to let the process help us get to that decision, and I think we're getting very close. I think the other piece that I was going to ask you to report on, Paul, was I understand that you and the board have talked about some methodologies to move forward as we can try to ferret out who is willing to actually seriously discuss the acquisition of property.
And the board's decision was to go with fair market price. Which
Okay.
would be determined by our assessor, who is not part of the town hall. He occupies a desk downstairs 1 day a week. He would look at a property and know what the fair market value of that property. So take assessment off the table, take appraisal off the table. The board went with fair market price.
Okay. And as long as we have any methodology, I think it's just important now. So now you're going to prepare to move forward then and contact these various abutters and find out who is going to buy into that, and so that we can then, because that may quickly take several things off the table.
yeah.
And I
right
can
there.
already tell you that and you don't have that many.
Hi, Mary.
You don't have that many to begin with, but
Right.
it's already taken a few off the table.
Exactly. Yep.
Because a few are already asking way above the fair market price.
Okay, so you've already known that. So then you'll be able to, without giving any details, just say back to me, this site is no longer under consideration. And then, or at least say, these abutting properties, or this abutting property is no longer under consideration. And so then we as a committee take that information and say, well, then that makes this site unsuitable. And we,
And we're already noticing, even though today's only Wednesday,
yeah.
we made this decision on Monday, and couple are already rethinking their first,
Yeah.
so you've at least accomplished lowering the price of what people were going to
Well, I think that's important, you know,
So
we
you
have to
did need
keep
to put
this.
some kind of benchmark
Yeah.
on the table, whether it was going to be the 10% that you had discussed last week, or now going with the idea of the fair market.
Great. Well, I appreciate you all discussing and coming up with a methodology, so that allows us to take those next steps, and so then we'll look forward to hearing from you as to which properties are no longer under consideration. Oh, that said, somebody, as you just pointed out, might next week change their mind and decide to jump back into the fray. But I would think that as a committee, once we have taken the next step, once we have eliminated a site and we have begun the cost estimates on the remaining sites, the gate's closed. You know, we can't keep jumping back and forth. I think we're going to have to move forward. So I think as you talk to people, say, this will quickly become non-negotiable. So if they don't want to play in the sandbox, that once we take them out of the sandbox, they may not be able to come back in.
And the board has already started doing that with one
Awesome.
individual.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any questions for Paul?
Just so we can ripple that into schedule,
Yes.
Yeah.
how does that affect the schedule, or what's our time frame? Just a ballpark there, without trying to commit to an actual date. Well, and maybe you don't want to say now, but maybe you can let me know.
Just one property that we're really waiting for, the owner is down in Florida.
And that's the only one left that you're waiting for? Or
Yeah, that's the
really?
only one.
Okay, so you've made great progress then.
Yeah.
That's super. So that's great. Yeah, so this shouldn't affect us at all then,
You're on
really.
all 7 sites, you got 6 sites, you got-
And in all honesty, on that piece of property, we know what that piece of property was up for sale for,
Okay.
what that dollar amount was. We're just trying to verify if it's still going to be.
Still the expected or reasonable price. Okay. Excellent. Well, that should not slow us down. We should be able to move forward, and because I'm not disagreeing with you at all, Dick. We need to narrow down, and if we end up coming up with one site, I'm hoping that we get there because we can defend it based on a flow of information that cause these other sites to no longer be under consideration.
And I still think the decision-making process for a site still is like, there are 3 criteria. The site
Exactly.
is assessment, fair market value of the property, the construction costs, and program fit. So,
And then we've got absolute transparency, totally defendable arguments for when somebody says, why didn't you take this property? We can explain that to them.
I guess maybe it's next in line, but based on the work that you did, are there any of these sites that we've picked that drop by the wayside on the fit criteria?
Well, that's right back, I think, if we're have any other questions for Paul, we're right back to agenda item 1, which is exactly that, and to hear from you guys, what did you find, what did you feel, what did you think, and Dick even printed them out. Look at that. I printed one
These
extra
are the site
copy.
assessment forms that we came up with is actually,
Paul. So this is left.
Just want to reiterate the fact, because John's not here, but if Mr. Kelly would like to see the test borings that he was questioning last week, this is we do have one more book, so John could swing by the town hall and we can show him the test borings.
Okay, so John, we miss you, and you have the opportunity to fully immerse yourself in the details of the history
A
of
couple
this.
extra ones, I believe everybody's got.
Okay, we'll hold on to that. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
this is a site assessment sheet we came up with for, there's actually eight sheets in here. One of those sheets is a property that would be an acquisition property that abuts town property. So it would sort of be considered as like a combination, but it wasn't, it can't be.
It won't hold anything alone, but, yeah.
They're in no order except by the cartographic map designation, which is, in the second little paragraph.
Yep.
And the first site is it happens to be the Hitchner property, which is map designation 10417. I don't know if you want to go down through this.
I think that's the best approach, is to hear your findings and observations and assessments, and Art's question becomes relevant as we move through these. Are there any sites that now we're at a point to say, you know what, this just isn't going to work?
We have some extras too, if the chief and Paul, if you want one of these, you're welcome to have. How'd you get it?
It's all up
I
there,
just
right?
printed it. Okay,
Extras too.
yeah, I did. The Hitchner property, map designation 10417, it's 5.18 acres. It's accessed by a 50-foot right-of-way to Highland Street, across the land of others. It's being looked at as a standalone PD site.
Right now, the quick programmatic test for that site, it could be well, let me go back a bit. I'm still trying to get from Ray that transmission lines for that site,
That's right.
so it's up in the air a little bit.
Okay. And I have this on here, we can...
Transmission lines,
Down through, but-
because there are some across the property that,
There's three-phase power going right across and adjacent to it, but it could be either standalone fire, police, or combined.
it would actually accommodate all three.
My first pass at the locating those lines and locating the building pad, it sort of fits with some massaging.
So we should change that to possibly...
Possibly, I'd like to get those transmission lines located first. And Ray said he'd have that to me probably tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I think we had decided before that it, even though we've said standalone PD, that it actually would accommodate either police or fire or combined.
Yep.
Right, I made that change, and I'll edit that. I'll change that.
Thank you.
The zone is industrial commercial. Environmental, there's three criteria we looked at: shorelands, wetlands, and brownfield. There's no shorelands. I didn't see any wetlands there, so I put down unknown. And as far as brownfield, we know that the town has owned this property in the past and owned the abutting property. And there was some cleanup done there. It's been remediated and monitoring continues, but the assignment of the responsibilities to others. The topography is flat, but there is sloping deep ravines there that are being filled right now by the highway department. It would probably be common excavation, which would be earth, the low probability there's any ledge there. There is made land or fill. The ravines are being filled right now. But that aside, I believe that we have enough land there.
Yes, and if we do get to the point where we want to sort of target those filled areas, I think it's uncontrolled fill, which means you'd have to...
Remove it.
Yes.
And can I just then ask, in your massaged placement of the three different options on the site, would that be including some of those areas that have been filled to some extent and would have to necessarily potentially be excavated and then reestablished?
A guarded, yes.
Okay. Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Required utilities, power, there's, like you said, there's primary transmission lines overhead crossing the flat ground, okay? There's actually two primary lines there. There's no secondary on this lot, secondary power at this time. Telephone and cable would need to come in from Highland Street. The sewer mains on Highland Street, there is no sewer on the property, it would have to be pumped. It would require a pump system. The water main would need to be, again, run into the property. There's no water on site. And the drainage, most of these sites are probably going to require retention systems, but the discharge could be towards the ravine, to the ravines towards the Baker River. Impediments and hazards, access, it's a long right of way to Highland Street. The traffic on Highland, and this is the same, it'll be repeated along as we go. Moderate to heavy, and there is a school zone, hospital zone, and the PSU campus that, headed inbound, and it's Tenny Mountain Highway headed outbound. There's no floodplain, no floodway. Other considerations, the right-of-way requires improvement. That's going to be a cost of the project. The site is not visible from Highland Street, and it needs to be exposed. It would sort of require clearing or something of that nature. The water main would need to be installed. The soil conditions would need to be verified in the areas of made land if we were going to get into that area.
Just one question, when you say it would have to be cleared, is it part of the land that we own that would have to be cleared?
I'm not sure. We haven't.
I think it's a combination of both parcels of land.
So it might be require an abutter to give permission to that sort of clearing.
I'm one of the abutters on this. My husband and I own the property that abuts this, so I probably shouldn't. I think this is probably a site I should recuse myself from comment.
Well, at this juncture.
And would throw that out just for you to think
Yeah,
about.
well, at this
At
juncture.
this juncture, I'm just taking in data, but I want
Right.
to.
Well, and at this juncture, that property is not being acquired for any of the plans we're discussing at this point, so you have no vested financial interest in this, and except perhaps the indirect one of whether this would improve or diminish the value of your property, which
Right,
remains to be
exactly, and I
seen.
just
Yeah.
want to make sure that
Right.
if, that we keep everything clear.
Absolutely. Well, I
The
think
only-
stating it
and the-
publicly is good.
And the only area where might come, your involvement might come together with the towns, the access up onto Highland, basically it's a pitched grade up to Highland. Should that be level for a staging area, just to get level before?
Yes, it
So
should be.
that's something to,
Intersection
consider.
should be flat so that you can pause on it
that's right.
and move out.
So when you pull up, that that you.
You have more
More
of
of a
a
dip
you have a
coming
landing
down.
area up there, so you don't have to scream up and hope you can get started on a hill again. You need to be flat.
Yeah, I will point out that big trucks have been pulling in and out of that lot for a long, long time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not just ours.
Yep.
It was the Hitchner.
Yeah, well, so
It's
down the
great,
road, there
so-
may be some negotiated improvements that would need to be considered, but at this juncture, we're not there yet, so.
So that's it for the town property on Highland Street, opposite the old Hitchner building. The next one is the site designation, is map 107.74. It's a private property on Highland Street. It's 1.25 acres in size. It has 255 feet of frontage, and the sidelines are 235 feet long. This is going to be a standalone PD, I believe. The zone is single-family residential. There's no shorelines, no wetlands, and no known brownfields or expected brownfields. The topography, it's 100% flat. The excavation, expect that it's going to be earth excavation, common excavation. Possibly could be some ledge. I know we know there's some in the road. There's no made land and have no idea about the groundwater there. But I don't think that would be a problem. The utilities, power is on the opposite side of Highland Street. Telephone and cable is likewise on the opposite side of Highland Street. Sewer is in the street, the water is in the street. The drainage, there's no drainage in the street. It's only gutters. I'm not sure how far it runs, and retention will probably be required here. The impediments and hazards, access, this lot is at the top of Highland Street. It has good sight distance in both directions. The traffic, Highland Street, it's Highland Street, which is our busy street in town. It has the hospital zone, the PSU campus, and the school zone. No floodplain and no floodway. Other considerations are it's in the single-family residential zone. Historically, that has been well defended by the neighbors. Highland Street is the main travel route from Main Street to Tenny Mountain Highway. That's hence where the traffic comes from. Heavy and at times stop traffic is at this location for the school zone, both coming and going. There'll be acquisition cost associated. And we'd have to demolish the existing buildings as well. There's 2 buildings on the property. This property is in, what we did was we took one point in front of the post office, the crosswalk at the post office, and we used that as a measure. And this site is 1 mile from the post office. That means the travel distance in town, downhill on Highland Street. And the other consideration is we would sell our present sites to recover, hopefully recover, reduce the overall cost.
Excellent, nice work.
Does Hitchner have an assessed value?
It's town.
We own that one, so.
We own that. I didn't, it does have a value. It does have a value assigned to it. I'm not sure.
I've got that.
Perhaps maybe the better question is, will there be a cost to the town if we used it for this purpose? So in other words, there's an opportunity, it's currently being used for certain functions by the town. And the question that we probably want to ask is, where do those functions go, and will there be a cost associated? Because that will ultimately be the real value of that property to us. But we can sort that out, but that's I wouldn't have thought of that until I drove up there myself and I
Actually,
saw
there are
this
other
stuff.
considerations. You know, we have talked in this community for a number of years about relocating the highway department from the riverbank.
Yep.
Highway has pretty much taken over this property as far as a work area and a dump area. And that in itself could be a different consideration.
You're right. Yeah.
Another option, a different consideration. So I'm gonna put that down, and I'll edit that into.
Thank you.
It's on the tax rolls for 13,000.
Yeah, again, the harder question is what's the value to the town if it had to be replaced elsewhere? And the town does own other land, whether it's feasible for that purpose or not, I don't know.
Okay. That was the second site. The third site is the present Plymouth Fire Department site at 42 Highland Street. That's map designation 108111. It's 0.4 acres with 145 feet of frontage. It could be either standalone fire or standalone police. It's in the multifamily zone. There's no shorelands, wetlands, or brownfields. The topography, it's flat, and the fire station appears to have been filled at one time. I would say that had to be probably filled place there in the station, just by the nature of the fact that it's dropping to a flat area in the back and it's built up. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, power. Power is on the opposite side of Highland Street. The telephone cable's on the opposite side of Highland Street. The sewer and water are in the street. I'm not exactly sure where. In the drainage, there's a wetland opposite the fire station on Highland Street that comes across from Cummings Street, and that, at the present time, dumps into a storm drain that runs down Highland to the river. Impediments and hazard access. Access right now is controlled by lights. The lights still work on the Jeep. Traffic, it's heavy traffic. It's Highland Street again, PSU campus again, the hospital. You're traveling through these areas of town, the campus, the hospital zone, the school zone, the residential area. There's no floodplain, no floodway. Other considerations would be acquisition cost. If we have to buy additional properties, I know we're trying to do a program fit for a standalone on the existing land. That's right, Peter, isn't it?
Yes.
But we also
Oh,
have,
they're like 4, depending on the deal for properties surrounding that site.
A lot of options.
I got 4, and it could go right up to a dozen options.
So that'll be determined, of course, through the exercise that Paul and Butch are going through. So once we have the ability to nail down the value of certain properties, that will help dictate what plans are feasible or more feasible.
if we do acquire the properties, properties in there, we'll have to also demolish the structures that exist.
Yep.
And the site would probably end up having to be filled to meet the grade of Highland Street.
Oh, assuming that there were the properties behind.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Excellent, thank you.
The next site is site designation 20924. It's a lot abutting town land. It's on Main Street, north. It's 1.5 acres with 100 feet of frontage on Main Street. It's in the highway commercial zone. There's no shorelands, wetlands, or brownfields. The topography is 50% flat, 25% sloped, and 25% rolling. It rolls downhill into the rear, into some low area. The soil's common excavation, ledge excavation, boulders of ledge at the access area probably. This lot, 100-foot access on Main Street, there is no, on Main Street, there is an embankment there, and that embankment would need to be removed and the access constructed. So that would enter into the cost of the land.
You did not try anything on that one, that piece.
There's no made land that we could see, except there's a parking lot. There's a parking lot that's built in the area, but it appears to be my experience is that it's either going to be ledge or sand. So I think it's probably sand at that point. I don't think there's any groundwater there. The power is at the street, on Main Street, at the same side as the lot. The telephone and cable is on the same side as the lot on Main Street. The sewer is on the opposite side of Main Street. The water is on the same side as Main Street. In the drainage is a ditch line at Main Street, and then the land also slopes to the rear. And again, probably retention would be required. Impediments and hazards. Site distance to the north is obstructed by the embankment that's there now, and that would have to be addressed. And site distance to the south is okay. The traffic is moderate. It's a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit. No floodway, no floodplain. Other considerations, the assessed acquisition value would be a consideration. There are no buildings on the site. And we would, again, I would hope if we have to acquire land that we would sell our present land that we're abandoning and offset the cost. Combined, this site would be combined, or has the ability to be combined with a town-owned property that abuts it, which makes the site bigger in size. Access would need to be constructed. There's no way to drive in there right now. It would have to be built. Site distance to the north, again, would need to be addressed. This site is 1.2 miles from the post office on Main Street.
Mary, on the list, on the site list,
Yes.
I don't know if you corrected this one or not. The sites that were listed before were the sites on the opposite side instead of the vacant lot. So that where you had site.
Did you, I was going to ask about that at some point tonight. Did you see the one that went out today?
It's 209-020, you had down 209-027, Owner Mount Prospect Academy, and 209-020. It's not those two. It's
Right, those I need to strike from
It's
this list.
209-024, the vacant lot that was just described.
So those other three I can strike?
Yes.
Thank you. I will make that correction.
I meant to give you that last week, and I
That's
realized I
okay.
didn't.
I figured I'd get it tonight, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next lot is map number 20925 and 20926. I put them together because they're both town-owned properties. Lot 20926 is the present police department on Main Street. The two lots have 7.48 acres, and they have 590 feet of frontage on Main Street. This can be either a combined facility or two standalone, either police or fire stations. It's in the highway commercial zone, no shorelands, no wetlands, no brownfields. The topography is sloped moderately to steep. There's not a lot of flatland there right now. Soils, common excavation, yeah, there will be some sand and rock. There will be ledge. I don't believe there's any made land there. In the groundwater, I don't think that's going to be an issue either. The required utilities are on the same side of Main Street, both power and telephone. The sewer is on the opposite side of Main Street, which would be to the east, and the water is again on the same side as Main Street. And the drainage is just the ditch line at the street, and retention would probably be required there.
It's probably not even worth mentioning though, but you said there's that small little ledge. Looking at where the property is adjacent to the police station,
Yes.
there's some cobbles and stuff looks like the guy had maybe filled it in there.
Yes.
But I think if we're going to use the site, that's all going anyways. It's not going to be reused as existing fill could be retained.
No.
I'm saying it's going to disappear.
It'd be just like yep. Absolutely. Impediments and hazards, access. The site distance on these two lots is good, both directions. The traffic is moderate to light. It's a 40-mile-per-hour speed zone. No floodplain, no floodway. Other considerations, excavation will include ledge. We could build into the terrain with a multi-story building. We could purchase a budding lot for a combined facility. We could sell the present sites to reduce the overall cost. This site is 1.3 miles to the post office.
Could I ask a question about this site?
Yep.
That it might not be the right time to do it, but you have the present PD site, and there was a certain amount of excavation that was judged necessary
Yes.
for the proposed facility that was put forth last year. If you add this site to it, does it minimize in any way the amount of excavation that would have to happen here? Do the properties of the abutting site make it so that there's more flat land to work with, or not necessarily?
Again, sort of a guard, I try to come up with some alternatives there. It's a difficult site to work with. And that's something I've got some schemes, but it's almost like I'd like to sit down maybe with you, Dick, or at some point, like a work session, and come up with some alternatives there. I'm not happy with what I came up with.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy site to work with either.
Unfortunately, you have where the police station is now is a reasonably flat site.
Right,
Then you've got the one beside it, which is reasonably steep,
right.
and then the vacant lot, which is reasonably flat on the other side, so it's not contiguous. You can't.
But to answer your question, I do think that as Peter looks at it, that if you decided, for example, to put a single standalone facility and you acquired that small lot and then had to only do whatever cuts you needed to get your entryway and your access spot, it's substantially flatter than
That's,
any
I
other
guess that's my question is, I think last year's plan called for constructing the PD, demolishing the existing PD and constructing the fire department portion of that project. So my question is, if you have two flat lots that are with a bunch of steep land in between them, could a similar kind of approach be used where you might
And perhaps the bigger
build
question
one
is going to
building
be, could you fit, and what would the cost, and how much excavation, if you
Right.
used the additional lot, the adjacent lot, plus how much ever of the existing town-owned lot, and put a combined facility together right there? Would that be, that's a pretty hefty, steep part of the ledge, so I think I don't know.
Well, I
what
guess
that's
I was
gonna
wondering, if
translate
we
into,
have
but
flat,
look.
steep, and flat, could the PD go there, demolish where the PD is now, and do fire department? I don't know
Yeah.
what the
Yes.
properties of the
Yes.
land
I think
are.
the
Is that,
answer is-
I'm not willing to send this out or let this out publicly yet, but I'll show you something. That's a topo combined with a tax map. And again, I was targeting, just utilizing this flat area back here. I'm sorry.
That's right.
This flat area back here, that's all flat, and it's actually nice to construct back there. This is relatively flat all through here, and the hillside comes in bowls in through here.
and then the police station is here right now?
police station
Is
here.
over here, okay, thank
But
you.
just as one scenario, if that's a two-story building combined, and that's the amount of park, it could be. And that's something, again, that's a lot of discussions with,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of what I was thinking. I didn't know you had gotten that far, but it'd
We
be
could also
interesting to
push
see.
back further too, couldn't we? We could push back into this area.
I'm just, if you have, this is gonna be cut, and that's where that grade scared me.
Drops. Or
No,
that's the steep, that's
Thanks,
that's
that
where
is-
that's where the fire department wants a climbing wall for rescue efforts. That's a spectacular spot for that, it really is.
And that's a standalone up front with access to park in the back.
So the point
I
is,
guess
there
my
may be
question
many
is,
options
does that new
potentially.
site give us the option
Yes.
of not having to do the extensive excavation that was
It'll be a different excavation, but I think it allows, as
it sounds like it's-
potentially it allows, as Peter
sand
evaluates
excavation is
this.
cheaper than ledge excavation,
Well,
right?
yeah, if you go up to that lot, though, most all of what you just saw is going to be cutting into some banking, but it'll be much, I think potentially could be less.
I think the banking at the front, you're gonna run into some rock.
Yeah, I'm sure,
Definitely run
I'm sure,
into
yeah.
rock.
Yeah.
All right, well,
But-
thank
but-
you.
but
There
the
are
PD
options.
site-
That's the nice thing, there are
The
some
existing
options.
PD site, that site was never cut the way,
It could have
in
been.
my opinion, it could have been cut differently and made more land. If you could bring that down closer to the road grade, and from what we've seen in the test pits behind the existing building right now, that's pretty reasonable material back there. And a standalone facility, standalone small PD might go pretty well. I don't know.
Are you talking about the current PD site?
Yes.
So you can go back there, you just can't go over here and go back? Is that correct? Okay.
Without money.
Well, I know.
You can do anything. These guys can do anything, Mary. I'm so impressed.
Well,
But
I
I think
know.
your question is on point, that there are many variables that could be considered up there with that adjacent property included in the mix. And we're not refined enough yet, but it could be, for example, the idea that we had that you couldn't yet build one and you build the other. Well, there's more flexibility if you are tackling it with that other property. But we'll see.
Okay.
We'll have to wait and
Thank
see.
you.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is 20978. And this is on Main Street opposite the police department. It's 5.33 acres and it's 793 feet of frontage, but the sidelines are a little better than 100 feet. It's a very long frontage, but very, very narrow, not much depth to it. This is being looked at as combined or standalone, highway commercial zone again. No environmental issues, the topography, all the flat land is visible from Main Street, but the land falls steeply to I-93 right away to the rear. It'll be common excavation, low probability there's ledge there. If there's any made land, it would be towards the back probably, but there's nothing obvious there. Groundwater won't be an issue. Power and telephone and cable are on the opposite side of Main Street. The sewer is on the opposite side of Main Street here, as well as the water. So all the utilities would have to cross Route 3. The drainage, retention system would definitely be required there. Impediments and hazard, it's good sight distance both ways on Main Street. And again, the traffic, it's moderate to light and 40 mile per hour speed zone. Other considerations are acquisition costs. We do have the assessed value of that property, but we would also consider, if we acquire property, that we would hopefully offset that with the sale of the existing lands that we'll be abandoning. The building demolition would probably need to be demolished. We haven't really looked at that, but I think the buildings would be demolished.
I think so too.
You couldn't use anything there. Again, the lot is long and narrow. It's 1.4 miles to the post office. This is, those last three lots are all on North Main Street. The next lot is designation 20982. It's on North Main Street. It has 307 feet of frontage, approximately 273 feet on sidelines. It would be a standalone facility. Is that correct?
Yes.
Highway commercial zone is the zone. The wetlands and shorelands are not existing. The topography, the frontage is flat, but it slopes steeply to I-93 in the back. The soils, I would expect sandy till, probably no ledge there. There's no sign of made land and groundwater. I don't think that'd be an issue. The power, and telephone, cable are on the same side of the street. The sewer's on the same side of the street in this location. The water's on the opposite side of Main Street. And the drainage, the roadway drains along the northerly boundary to the east. In other words, there's a drainage ditch that parallels the northeast boundary of this lot. It's a fairly deep ravine.
I wouldn't even characterize it as a drainage ditch. I mean, back of that building that's collapsed at the back, boy, it's like 40 feet deep.
But
It's dramatic.
But the storm drain crosses that road.
Oh, it does?
The storm drain crosses the road from in front of the hotel and crosses into that ravine.
Into that ravine.
Okay.
Impediments and hazard access, looking south, the site is obstructed by a downhill curve headed into town. The traffic, McDonald's is a McDonald's, it's an intersection with Fairgrounds Road, and it's moderate. The floodway, no issue there. Other considerations would be the acquisition costs, demolition of existing structures and site cleanup. The ravine behind would require fill, but that would require addressing the drainage as well. Drainage to the north would require attention as well.
The ravine
Yes.
at the back of the building, or?
The ravine on the northeast side. It's between the Pilgrim Motel and this property.
Right, actually, the Shiv is the first one we looked at, too. Where?
Right here, right along this power line. Comes right down here.
Okay. Because literally, that line right there, there's almost like it's a steep, it's like 40 feet. I wouldn't say that you'd fill it. It's like almost like 40 feet deep. It's dramatic. And it tapers up to nothing up at the road.
Okay, but we'd have to address that up here.
Yes,
Still,
yes.
We'd have to address that. The drainage to the north would need attention. That's in that ravine. There's another secondary power line that crosses the property on poles, and it comes down along the northerly edge and crosses behind, headed south. It's 1.1 miles from the post office. The last one is map number 21229. It's on Tenny Mountain Highway. There's 27.97 acres. It has 365 feet of frontage, of which there's a 50-foot right-of-way on the east side of the lot, and the sidelines are approximately 2,900 feet long. This could be either combined or standalone. The zone is industrial commercial. There's no shorelands. Wetlands is unknown. Brownfields, don't think so. The topography, it's flat at the frontage, but the lot is low to Route 25. The grade of the lot is below Route 25. It's sloping about approximately 150 to 160 feet behind the existing building. The ground starts sloping upward to the south. The soils, common excavation, yes. Ledge, probably not. Made land is really unknown. Groundwater, seasonally high in this area. The power is on the opposite side of Tenny Mountain Highway, as well as a telephone and cable. The sewer is on the same side as Tenny Mountain Highway, as well as the water line. The drainage, there is a catch basin. It shows some sign of having some oil spilled in or around it. A retention system would be likely. Impediments are hazards. Access, it's good sight distance, but it's upgrading into Tenny Mountain Highway. The road is actually above the lot. The traffic is very heavy, very high traffic count east and west. It is in the 500-year floodplain. There would be acquisition costs. There would be demolition costs for the existing structure. And there's a possibility that at some point in time, Tenny Mountain Highway could become a divided highway, and that was one of the members of the committee mentioned that, or the group that was touring. Probability that there'd be a high delayed response due to traffic, both from the station and to the station, because of the traffic. And access and control lights would probably be needed. And this site is 2.6 miles from the post office. I think that's the last one.
That is.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, you
for
guys
This is
obviously
great.
accomplished a lot.
Helpful.
And thank you very much for the time to put all this together. I know that's not a small, insignificant effort, so thank you guys.
Peter did.
It's your turn to say Pshaw.
Anyway.
Well, I looked at both of you. No. It is now,
Just to mention for the record, the group
Yes.
that met was myself and Peter, Pat Cody was there, Ray Gosling was there, and John Kelly. And we all
Great.
went together to all the lots.
thank you very, very much to all of you. Since we only are now 2 minutes before 6 here, I guess I'd like to jump to, for two things. Do we need to set up some additional meetings at this juncture? We still have some subgroups functioning. Shall we wait another week or two and see what's necessary? Or do people have any clear feeling about that at this point?
I think, I'd like to have a couple of work sessions. Meeting every week is a little bit, I think is a little bit tight. If we could, even if
that's
next
why
week
it's
we
on.
had a maybe we need to go in the field, maybe we don't. Maybe we need to have some discussions at the table and share some thoughts. That may or may not, rise to the level of being publicly disclosed.
Well, they'll all be public meetings, but we certainly don't have to organize televising. That wouldn't be reasonable if we aren't sure where we're going to be. That's a pretty difficult thing to say, but we would certainly announce them as
But I can
open
take
public
minutes.
meetings. We can certainly
It can
take.
be public
absolutely,
meetings, I can
yeah.
take minutes, and the record of the meeting
Yeah,
can
we're
still be...
actually required to do that, and we would
Right.
certainly
So-
continue to do that. And anybody who wanted to come, and if we get up and go somewhere, they can get up and go. So the question is, when is a good time, and how should we move forward?
This time's a great time.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't necessarily have to have a meeting next week. We can just come in and have a work session.
Yeah.
So we could, in anticipation that we might actually be getting up and leaving, and we aren't sure what it would be, would simply announce these as public meetings, but we're not going to televise them because we may not be here. Is that a fair way to maybe phrase it?
Right, and anyone who's here is welcome to go with us
Sure.
wherever we go.
Yep.
Yeah.
No?
Yep, sounds
Because
good.
I do think we're at a point now where we're going to get to a point where it says, can we go look at this again? Because this is important, and as we get some of the other information that's coming into us, we may get an idea that this property is this much, this is this much, and this is this much, and we say, all right, well, how's that going to play into our plan? And we may actually want to, as a whole
It's going to
group.
be pretty narrowed down here in another week, I think.
Okay.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think we should meet a little longer and maybe a little
Yep.
more for a people of weeks to
Well,
really nail this
yeah, do you
and
want to-
move on to
would
the next
People
aspect.
be
I
willing
don't
to
know
say
how it
that for
feels
the
like
next
that.
couple of weeks, we're going to have what we're going to call working meetings. We aren't sure, we won't televise them, they're open, and we'll go till 6:30
Yep. it's
and
fine.
see how that feels for getting our business done. And of course, we have subgroups that are working outside of these meetings, and that'll continue. And I thought it was really helpful, and thank you for everybody getting your work done so we could see these things ahead of time. And if you all agree with my assessment, we will even defer minutes approval to an electronic methodology so that we won't waste any time at a meeting doing that. We'll just bounce our, hey, this wasn't right, that's not right, we'll all agree, and then we'll have a final email of approval.
I have actually mastered how to use the program on my computer, so you can just mark up changes on the
Great.
ones that Art still is sending them out, because he's my
Yeah.
second set of eyes. In case I've missed something, then
I'm
he'll
gonna-
send
Art and
them,
I are
and then
gonna-
you can...
Talk about, how track changes works, to see if we can develop a methodology to make sure we
Yeah.
get up one
Or if
clean
it's easy, you
copy.
can call and say, strike that word. Either way, if you just let me know.
Well, I think the key is to get a single document that is clean, and then people can either track it up, or they can just simply send an email and say, could you change line 27? And
When you send it to me, if you can send it without the track changes, because you're doing the same thing I do, you're taking the previous set of minutes and marking them up, but it came through as with all of the changes in it, so it's...
Oh, it did? It didn't show up that way on mine. Yeah, I will definitely
It's
get
8
rid of
million
that.
changes,
Sorry.
and then I forwarded it that way, so I confused
Oh,
everybody.
I apologize.
So
I'll
that's
be sure to turn
Yeah,
that
the
off.
trick is, it's not turning it off, it's going in and accepting all the changes.
Yeah.
When you turn it off, it just means you don't see it, but the changes are still there. So as soon as you turn it back on again, they pop up again. So you have to physically go in and
So
say,
it
yes,
turns out
I
I didn't
accept
master
all the
it."
changes.
Okay, I had no idea that's what it was
So
looking like.
then, we will plan then to convene again at 5 o'clock next Wednesday for a working session. It's open to the public, but it won't be televised because we may not be here for parts of it. And we will work, again, we'll add a half an hour to our meeting time for the next foreseeable future and see how that goes.
Sure, I'm fine with that, that's good.
Okay.
I'd like to target a good portion of that time for myself, selfishly. And also, if I can call both you, I'd like to sit down and just discuss and just program things for the different options to get some feedback.
Great. Thank you.
Tomorrow or maybe Friday or something.
Won't be in town tomorrow or the next day.
All right, it'll be
Back Monday.
Monday.
Thank you for doing that, Peter. Dick, then Art. Did you have a comment? I thought- Okay, Art?
I just want to let you know, I'm not going to be here next week.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I have a meeting in Washington all week.
You might want to, since we're doing a working session that might be hard to capture because we won't be televised, even though it's a public meeting, certainly you might want to contact one of us
Yeah,
to get a
I'll,
personal
and I'll,
update.
Would you be
Minutes
my
will be
second
good.
set of eyes then on the minutes?
Sure.
Okay,
Just
great.
in case I miss something, that way when I send it out, it'll be pretty complete.
Okay, I'll do that.
And of course, we'll all be your final set of eyes, so.
No
Right.
doubt about that.
And I think I might call Jeff Downing maybe have an informational meeting with him, but, you know, we can't really target limited number of selections for sites yet. So maybe just an informational meeting with him.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm hopeful that in a week we'll know whether we're going to discontinue any sites based on unwillingness to participate in our methodology for the acquisition costs. And I would say we have a couple of sites that I would strike me as marginal at best right now, that
But we'll
I
talk
think
about that.
we need to
Right.
talk about that and officially come to that conclusion and narrow the field somewhat, because there's a couple of these sites that just in seeing now more detail, I think we're to the point where we have enough information to say it just doesn't stack up against some other sites, so I think we need to make some of those decisions.
And the only other comment I'd like is if the board does, you know, on any one of these properties, come to, this one's not gonna work, let us know.
Let us know.
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
Right.
And if we, if you're waiting to get them all done,
No.
you can start letting us know as soon as you have that information. And again, we aren't privy to
Absolutely.
necessarily the dollar amounts, but we're privy to know that they're not going to play in the sandbox, and we
Right.
should move forward.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
I just got one more thing here.
Yes.
Because we were trying, we were looking at everything. We announced that we were looking at everything. This was brought to the attention of the board. And this is just another site to look at.
You're going to add more sites to us, huh?
This is a Langdon Park, which is owned by the college. And that's something just to take a look at, and look at. Feedback on it next week when we come back, whatever. But I hate to say that somebody says that we didn't look at it.
Although we did do our last call for sites a month ago.
But just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I know.
Well, if
So-
if people just take a look at that, and we
Yeah.
can.
But when we get to
can
the end
take
of
a
this,
well,
can
a
we really
conversation.
say that's it? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
just-
Well, and we may say,
That's it now, but now I have to be careful because I have an association with that property, so I would look to you all to determine whether or not that's a wise direction to look.
Right.
okay,
I think we subside, there are 12 foot doors. That's one thing we talked to Keith about.
do we have any public comments?
Those are full days.
Any future agenda items people want to toss out now? I think we have our future pretty well plotted, so. All right, we stand adjourned then. Thank you all.
Two more individual days, yes.